Daeho Kim stood in the airlock of Station Terminus 9 and tried not to look nervous. His hands were sweating inside his gloves. This was humanity's first official meeting with the Galactic Council, and he was just an engineer. He shouldn't even be here with the important people. Captain Taejun Lee stood beside him, perfectly calm in his military uniform. The captain always looked calm. Behind them, Yuna Choi was checking her communication devices for the 100th time. She was the tech expert, the one who would make sure humans and aliens could actually talk to each other. Remember, Taejun said quietly, we represent all of humanity today. Be professional. Daeho nodded. He had heard this speech 5 times already. The airlock door opened with a soft hiss. The station beyond was beautiful. The walls seemed to glow with soft blue light. The corridor stretched ahead, wide enough for 10 people to walk side by side. Everything looked smooth and clean, nothing like the rough metal corridors of human ships. A figure waited for them in the corridor. Daeho had seen pictures, but seeing a real alien was different. The Vellani diplomat was tall, maybe 7 feet, with scales that shifted colors like oil on water. The scales were mostly gray and silver now, arranged in patterns that might have been clothing or might have been part of their skin. Large golden eyes watched the humans approach. Welcome to Terminus 9, the Vellani said. The voice came from a device on their chest, translating their actual sounds into Korean. I am Counselor Sivrath. The Galactic Council greets humanity. The Daejeon stepped forward and bowed slightly. Thank you, Counselor. We are honored to be here. Sivrath's eyes moved across each human, studying them. Your species is young, loud. You broadcast your thoughts and feelings without control. This will be interesting. Daeho wasn't sure if that was an insult or not. He kept his mouth shut. Another human joined them from a side corridor. Hannah Park, the xenobiologist. She had been on the station for 3 days already, preparing for this meeting. She smiled at Daeho and the others. Captain, she said with a small bow. Everything is ready for the ceremony. Daeho had worked with Hannah before, back on Earth. She was smart. Maybe the smartest person he knew. She could look at an alien plant and figure out its entire biology in an hour. Now she wore the standard diplomatic uniform, dark blue with the Earth symbol on the shoulder. The ceremony will begin in 1 hour, Sivrath said. First, we must ensure your safety systems are compatible with our station. Engineer Kim, you will inspect our power systems with Scientist Park. I will accompany you. Daeho blinked in surprise. Me? I thought I was just here as backup. All visitors must verify our systems, Sivrath explained. It is protocol. You are an engineer. You will understand our reactors. Taejun nodded at Daeho. Go. Yuna and I will handle the diplomatic preparations. So that was how Daeho found himself following Hannah and an alien diplomat through the gleaming corridors of humanity's first alien space station. Other aliens passed them in the halls. Short insect-like creatures with too many arms. Tall beings made of what looked like living crystal. A massive creature that had to be 8 feet tall with dark red skin and tusks. That was a Draken, Hannah whispered to him. Warrior race. Very honorable. Don't stare. Daeho forced himself to look forward. Everything here was incredible. Every corner revealed something new and impossible. Sivrath led them to an elevator that moved sideways and down at the same time. Your species thinks very loudly, the Vellani said suddenly. We can sense it. Your minds are chaotic, full of noise. Sorry? Daeho said, confused. You do not control your thoughts. All of you, constantly thinking, feeling, reacting. No discipline, no order. Sivrath's scales rippled. We Vellani learn thought control from childhood. It is civilized, necessary for a peaceful society. Hannah spoke carefully. Humans value free thought. We believe people should think what they want. How primitive, Sivarath said, but there was something odd in their tone. Deho couldn't tell if it was disgust or curiosity. The elevator opened into a massive chamber. The reactor core of the station sat in the center, a sphere of contained energy that pulsed with light. Conduits ran in all directions, like veins. The temperature was cool, almost cold. Impressive, Deho said honestly. The human reactors he worked with were powerful, but this was on another level entirely. You will inspect the secondary systems, Sivarath said. The conduits that feed the diplomatic wing. They are through that maintenance tunnel. Deho looked where Sivarath pointed. The tunnel entrance was small, meant for maintenance drones probably. Maybe 3 feet wide. We'll need to crawl, Hana said. She was already pulling tools from her belt. Standard inspection. Come on, Deho. Let's show them human engineers can handle anything. They put on their helmets, activating the suit seals. The suits were new, designed for this mission. Form-fitting, flexible, with built-in life support. Hana climbed into the tunnel first. Deho followed. The tunnel was tight. They had to move on hands and knees, crawling toward the diagnostic point 200 meters ahead. The suits worked perfectly, keeping them comfortable and safe. Sivarath stayed behind, watching through a monitoring screen. This is exciting, Hana said over the helmet radio. Her voice was cheerful. Real alien technology. I've been waiting for this my whole life. It's definitely something, Deho agreed. He focused on moving forward, trying not to think about the tight space around them. The tunnel curved upward. Hana pulled herself up, and gravity shifted slightly. They were entering a zero-gravity section. She moved gracefully, pushing off the walls, her suit catching the light from their helmet lamps. Deho followed, less gracefully. He bumped his shoulder on the tunnel wall. I hate zero-G, he muttered. You're doing fine, Hana called back. She was already at the diagnostic panel, running her scanner over the alien conduits dot as Deho caught up. He couldn't help but notice how well the suit fit Hana. The designers had made them practical but also streamlined. Every movement was clear and defined. He forced himself to look at the diagnostic panel instead. Work. Focus on work. This was the most important day in human history, and he needed to act professional. But his brain, as always, had other ideas. Random thoughts popped up without permission. Observations, reactions, the kind of mental noise that Sivarath had called primitive. Deho wondered if the Villani were actually happier with their thought control, or if they just seemed calm on the outside, while screaming on the inside. He pushed the thought away and pulled out his own scanner. Time to work dot above them. Throughout the station, the Galactic Council prepared for the ceremony. Humanity was about to be introduced to thousands of species, to join a civilization that spanned half the galaxy. Nobody knew that everything was about to change because of one engineer's wandering thoughts. The diagnostic panel showed everything in alien symbols that slowly translated to Korean on Deho's helmet display. The power flow looked stable. Energy distribution was even across all conduits. Whatever else the Villani were, they built good reactors. Everything checks out on my end, Hana said. She was twisted at an odd angle in the zero gravity, her scanner pressed against a junction box. These systems are at least 50 years ahead of our technology. Maybe more. Deho grunted in agreement. His own readings confirmed it. The efficiency ratings were incredible. Human reactors wasted almost 30% of their energy as heat. These alien systems wasted maybe 5%. Move forward to the next junction. Sivarath's voice came through their helmets. 17 meters ahead. We must verify all connections before the ceremony begins. The tunnel narrowed even more. Hana squeezed through first. The passage was barely wide enough for their suits. Deho watched her wiggle forward, pushing with her legs, pulling with her arms. That was when his brain decided to be completely unhelpful. The thought just appeared. Uninvited and unwanted. That suit really shows off her. Wow. Okay, not the time. Focus on the reactor. Daiho closed his eyes for a second, embarrassed with himself. This was exactly the kind of stupid thought that served no purpose. Hana was a colleague, a friend, a brilliant scientist. And here he was, thinking like a teenager. He shook his head and started squeezing through the narrow passage after her. Professional. He needed to be professional. Hana reached the next junction and pulled herself to the side, so Daiho could fit next to her. The space was tight. They were basically shoulder to shoulder, floating in the zero gravity, both scanning the alien machinery. This is amazing, Hana said softly. Look at this coupling design. It allows for expansion and contraction without any stress on the system. We should copy this for our ships. Daiho tried to focus on the coupling. He really did. But his mind kept wandering. It was strange working this close to Hana. They had known each other for 3 years, but always with other people around. Always in bigger spaces. Stop it, he told himself firmly. Reactor. Alien technology. Important inspection. Think about that. Readings are good, he managed to say. His voice sounded normal. Good. What Daiho didn't know was that station, Terminus 9, had a feature that human technology had never encountered. The station was designed for telepathic species. The Villani and dozens of other races communicated partly through thoughts, not just words. To make this easier, the station had amplifiers built into every wall. What Daiho also didn't know was that for the diplomatic ceremony, these amplifiers were set to maximum broadcast. Every thought from every telepathic being would be shared, creating a sense of unity and trust. It was tradition for important meetings. The problem was that humans weren't supposed to be telepathic. The Villani had tested them. Human thoughts couldn't be broadcast or received. The Villani were wrong. Human thoughts were just broadcast on a different frequency. A frequency the amplifiers could pick up and boost. A frequency that, when properly amplified, could reach every telepathic being in range. Daiho was still thinking about how nice Hana looked in her suit. The thought was quiet in his head, just background noise while he worked. But through the station's amplifiers, it went everywhere. The effect was immediate. Every Villani on the station felt it. A raw, unfiltered, completely undisciplined human thought. No control. No careful shaping. Just pure random brain activity about physical attraction and professional embarrassment mixed together. In the central council chamber, 300 alien representatives stopped moving. The Villani among them went rigid, their scales flushing bright orange, which humans would later learn meant extreme shock. The insectoid crash chittered in confusion. The crystalline lumina pulsed with light. The massive Draken warrior laughed, a booming sound that echoed through the chamber. In the reactor tunnel, Hana suddenly froze. She turned her head slowly to look at Daiho through their helmet visors. Daiho, she said carefully. Did you just think something? His stomach dropped. What? I mean, yes? I'm always thinking. Why? Sivrith's voice came through their helmets, but it sounded strained. Engineer Kim, Scientist Park, please exit the tunnel immediately. There has been an incident. What kind of incident? Hana asked. She was still staring at Daiho. A diplomatic incident, Sivrith said. Involving your thoughts, Engineer Kim. Daiho felt his face go hot. My thoughts? How? I didn't say anything. You broadcast them, Sivrith said. Each word sounded forced. To the entire station. Every telepathic species heard your observation about Scientist Park's physical appearance. For 3 long seconds, nobody moved. Daiho's brain completely shut down. This couldn't be happening. This was impossible. Then Hana started laughing. It wasn't polite laughter. It wasn't nervous laughter. It was genuine, uncontrolled, human laughter that came from deep in her chest. She laughed so hard she had to grab the tunnel wall to keep from floating away. "Oh my God," she gasped between laughs. "Oh my God, Deho. You thought about my butt and broadcast it to the entire Galactic Council." "I didn't mean to." Deho's voice went high with panic. "I didn't know. How was I supposed to know? You said humans aren't telepathic." "We're not." Hana was still laughing. "But apparently the station doesn't know that." Her laughter was also broadcasting. Every alien in range could hear it. The sound of a human female, amused rather than offended, finding humor in the situation instead of anger. This confused the Villani even more. Sivrith's scales cycled through 6 different colors in 10 seconds. "Please exit the tunnel," Sivrith repeated. "The council demands an explanation." Deho and Hana crawled back through the maintenance tunnel as fast as they could. When they emerged into the reactor chamber, Sivrith was waiting. The Villani's scales were now a deep purple, which might have meant anger or confusion or something humans had no word for. "This is unprecedented," Sivrith said. Their voice shook slightly. "Thoughts are private, sacred. You do not broadcast such things. You do not think such undisciplined thoughts about colleagues." "I didn't mean to," Deho said miserably. "It was just a random thought. Humans have thousands of them every day. Most of them don't mean anything." "Thousands?" Sivrith's scales went pale gray. "You have thousands of undisciplined thoughts every day?" "Well, yes," Hana said. She had stopped laughing, but still sounded amused. "That's how human brains work. We think about everything. Most of it is just noise. But how do you function?" Sivrith asked. "How do you work, negotiate, live in society if your minds are constantly full of chaos?" "We just do," Hana said with a shrug. "We learn to act on the important thoughts and ignore the random ones." Sivrith looked between them. "The council is in emergency session. They demand you both appear immediately. Engineer Kim, you have committed a grave violation. Scientist Park, you must testify about this assault on your dignity." Hana stopped smiling. "Assault? It was just a thought. A stupid random thought. Everyone has them." "Not in civilized society," Sivrith said firmly. "Thoughts are controlled, disciplined. What Engineer Kim did was barbaric, primitive." "Or honest," Hana said quietly. Sivrith's scales rippled with an emotion Deho couldn't identify. "Come, the council waits." They followed the Villani through the corridors. Other aliens stopped to stare at them. Some pointed. The insectoid Kresh chittered as they passed. A dragon warrior gave Deho what might have been a thumbs up with one massive finger. Deho felt sick. This was supposed to be humanity's big moment. Their introduction to galactic civilization. And he had ruined it by thinking about Hana's butt. Hana walked beside him, still calm. "Hey," she said softly. "It's going to be okay." "How?" Deho asked. "I just destroyed first contact." "Maybe," Hana said. "Or maybe you just showed them what humans really are, honest, even when we don't mean to be." Ahead, the doors to the council chamber opened. 300 alien faces turned to look at them. Deho took a deep breath and walked forward to face the consequences of one unfiltered thought. The council chamber was the biggest room Deho had ever seen. The ceiling stretched up at least 50 meters. Rows of seats curved in a half circle, rising in tiers like an ancient amphitheater. Each seat held a different alien species. Some sat on chairs. Some floated. Some hung from the ceiling on thick cables. All of them were staring at Deho, and Hana. Captain Taejun stood near the center of the floor, his face completely blank. That was how he looked when he was furious but had to stay calm. Yuna stood beside him, her communication devices clutched in both hands. A Villani even taller than Sivreth stood at a raised podium. Their scales were pure silver with lines of gold running through them. This had to be someone very important. "Humans," the silver Villani said. Their translated voice was deep and cold. "I am High Counselor Desic. We have called this emergency session because of an unprecedented violation of mental etiquette." Engineer Deho Kim stepped forward. Deho's legs felt weak, but he walked to the center of the floor. Hannah walked with him. Captain Taejun moved to stand beside them. "Captain," Desic said, "your engineer has committed a serious offense." He broadcast an inappropriate thought about his female colleague to the entire station. Such lack of mental discipline is unacceptable in civilized space. Taejun bowed slightly. "High Counselor, we were not informed that the station could detect human thoughts. We believed ourselves to be non-telepathic." "You are non-telepathic," Sivreth said from their seat nearby. "That is what makes this so disturbing. Your thoughts are so loud, so undisciplined, that they broadcast anyway. Like shouting in a library." A Draken warrior several rows up laughed. The human noticed his female was attractive. "This is wrong? All warriors appreciate fine armor on an ally." Several other species made sounds of agreement. The Kresh chittered rapidly among themselves, but the Villani remained stone-faced. "It is not merely the content of the thought," Desic said. "It is the complete lack of control. The chaos. Do you understand what thought discipline means?" "No," Taejun said honestly. "Please, explain." Desic gestured around the chamber. "Every Villani here controls their thoughts perfectly. We think only what we choose to think. Our minds are ordered, peaceful, civilized. This is the foundation of our society." When Engineer Kim broadcast his chaotic thought, it was like hearing someone scream obscenities in a temple. Hannah stepped forward. "May I speak?" Desic looked surprised but nodded. "The victim may testify." "I'm not a victim," Hannah said clearly. Deho had a random thought. So what? Humans think thousands of thoughts every day. Most are meaningless. He didn't act on it. He didn't say it out loud. His brain just had a passing observation. "But you heard it," a crystalline lumina said, their voice like bells. "Did it not make you uncomfortable?" Hannah shrugged. "A little. But I've had random thoughts about colleagues too. About their appearance, their habits, whether they're annoying. Everyone does. The difference is what you do with those thoughts. We do not have such thoughts," Desic said firmly. "We are disciplined." Yuna suddenly spoke up. "High Counselor, may I present some research?" Desic nodded slowly. Yuna tapped her tablet, and a holographic display appeared above the floor. It showed brain scans, neural pathways, complicated data that Deho didn't understand. "I've been studying Villani neural patterns since we arrived," Yuna said. "With permission from volunteers. I found something interesting. Young Villani, before the age of 5, show the same chaotic thought patterns as humans. The chamber went very quiet. Then, at age 5, Yuna continued, every Villani receives a neural implant. This image shows the implant network. The hologram changed, showing a web of circuits through a brain. The implants suppress random thoughts. They create order by blocking neural pathways. You don't naturally have thought discipline. You're forced to have it." Sivra stood up suddenly. "This is classified medical information. You should not have access to this. It's in your public medical databases," Yuna said calmly. "You just never thought anyone would look." Desic's scales flickered between colors. "The implants are necessary. Without them, we would be chaotic, barbaric, like humans." "All free," Hana said softly. The word hung in the air. Several aliens shifted in their seats. The Draken who had laughed earlier was watching with interest now. "This session is about Engineer Kim's violation," Desik said, but their voice was less certain. "Not about our medical practices." "But they're connected," Hana argued. "You're punishing Deho for being natural, for having the kind of random, unfiltered thoughts that all organic beings probably have. You just don't remember having them because your implants took that away when you were children." A younger Villani in the back row stood up. Their scales were bright blue with purple spots. "Is this true? We had chaotic thoughts as children." "Sit down, Kesseth," Sivra said sharply. But Kesseth didn't sit. "I want to know. Did I used to think freely? Before the implant?" Other young Villani were standing now. The older ones looked uncomfortable, their scales shifting through colors that showed distress. Desik raised a hand for silence. "This is not relevant to the case. Engineer Kim, you will be confined to your ship. The human delegation will leave Terminus 9 immediately. Humanity is not ready for galactic society." "Wait," Deho said. He hadn't spoken since entering the chamber, but now words came out in a rush. "You're punishing all of humanity because I had a random thought. Because my brain works the way brains naturally work." "Your brain works without discipline," Desik said. "But it works honestly," Deho said. "I didn't hide what I thought. I didn't manipulate it or control it to seem better than I am. What you got was the real me. Messy and random and maybe inappropriate sometimes, but real." The Draken warrior stood. He was massive, his red skin covered in scars. "I am Commander Vrock of the Draken clans. I speak for my people. We find the humans' honesty refreshing. We fight alongside warriors. We trust them with our lives. We must know their true thoughts. The Villani hide behind their implants. The humans showed us truth. Truth without discipline is chaos," Desik argued. "Discipline without truth is slavery," Vrock replied. More aliens were talking now. The chamber filled with sounds, clicks, whistles, translated words in dozens of languages. The Villani looked shocked. This meeting was spinning out of their control. Sivra stood and approached Deho. Up close, Deho could see their scales were flickering rapidly between colors. Gray to purple to orange and back. "You really think thousands of random thoughts every day?" Sivrath asked quietly. "At least," Deho said. "Probably more. Most I don't even notice. They just flow through and disappear. And you don't fear them? Don't hate yourself for having inappropriate thoughts." Deho blinked. "No, they're just thoughts. What matters is what I do. How I act." Sivrath's scales went very still. Then, slowly, they turned a color Deho hadn't seen before. A soft pink mixed with gold. "Counselor Sivrath," Desik said sharply. "Control yourself." But Sivrath was staring at their own hands. "I was 7 when I received my implant. I barely remember before. But I remember color, sound, everything was so bright. Then the implant activated and everything became quiet. Ordered. I thought that was maturity. Growing up. But what if it was just loss?" "This is enough," Desik declared. "The session is over. My judgment stands. The humans will leave." Hana looked up at all the aliens watching them. "Before we go, can I ask one thing?" Desik sighed. "What?" "Let me volunteer for something. Put me in your telepathic amplifier. Let everyone hear a human. Mine for 1 hour. Unfiltered. Complete. Then you can judge whether we're too chaotic for your civilization." The chamber erupted in discussion. Desik looked uncertain for the first time. Several Villani were arguing among themselves. The other species watched with fascination. "This is highly irregular," Desik said. "So is exiling an entire species," Hana replied. Desik looked at Sivrath. Some unspoken communication passed between them. Finally, Desic nodded. 1 hour. Tomorrow, we will observe your chaotic mind, Scientist Park. Then we will make our final decision about humanity's place in the Galactic Council. The session ended. Aliens filed out of the chamber, talking and clicking and whistling. Deho, Hannah, and the other humans stood together on the chamber floor. That was incredibly risky, Taejin said to Hannah. I know, Hannah said. But if they're going to judge us, they should at least understand us first. Deho looked at her. You're going to let them read your mind for an hour? Hannah smiled. Every random, chaotic, inappropriate thought. Just like you did. Except I'm doing it on purpose. Why? Because someone needs to show them that chaos isn't the same as wrong, Hannah said. And honestly, I'm curious what they'll think when they see a human mind working normally. Above them, Sivrith watched from the viewing platform. Their scales were still that strange pink-gold color. Tomorrow would change everything. They could feel it. Tomorrow, the Galactic Council would see what freedom actually looked like. Hannah sat in the center of the council chamber, wearing a thin circlet around her head. The device was Vellani technology, designed to amplify telepathic signals. Yuna had checked it 3 times to make sure it was safe for humans. The device would broadcast whatever Hannah was thinking to everyone in the chamber. 300 aliens watched her. Vellani, Kresh, Lumina, Draken, and dozens of species Hannah didn't have names for yet. Captain Taejin sat in the human delegation area. Deho sat beside him, looking nervous. Yuna monitored her equipment, ready to cut the connection if anything went wrong. High Counselor Desic stood at the podium. We are gathered to observe the human mind. Scientist Park has volunteered to share her thoughts for 1 hour. This will help us determine if humanity is compatible with civilized society. Sivrith sat in the front row, their scales a neutral gray. But their large eyes were focused completely on Hannah. I'm ready, Hannah said. She tried to relax. This was going to be strange. Yuna activated the device. The effect was immediate. Every telepathic being in the chamber suddenly felt Hannah's thoughts flowing into their minds. The first thing they noticed was the noise. Hannah was thinking about at least 5 different things at once. She was aware of the aliens watching her. She was remembering to breathe steadily. She was thinking about what she wanted for dinner. She was noticing that one of the Lumina had a crack in their crystal body. She was humming a song in the back of her mind without realizing it. The Vellani in the chamber went rigid. This was what they had suppressed with their implants. This constant stream of thoughts, observations, feelings, memories, all flowing together in a river of consciousness. Hannah looked at Deho and felt a flutter of attraction mixed with amusement. She was thinking about how he looked stressed, wondering if he had slept well, remembering the time they had worked together on a project and he had fallen asleep at his desk. She thought he was kind and smart, and yes, attractive. And she wondered if maybe after this disaster of a first contact was over they could get coffee sometime. These thoughts happened in about 3 seconds. The Draken commander laughed. The human female thinks faster than we speak. So many thoughts. But Hannah was already moving on. She was thinking about the Vellani now, looking at Sivrith and wondering what they were like before their implant, feeling sad that they couldn't remember being a child without the forced control, hoping this demonstration would help them understand humans better. Then her mind jumped to the reactor she and Deho had inspected, thinking about the efficiency ratings, wondering if she could convince the Vellani to share the technology, imagining what human ships could do with those power systems, getting excited about the possibilities, then worry. Worry that humanity would be rejected. Worry that she wasn't explaining things well enough just by thinking. Worry about her family back on Earth, who would be disappointed if first contact failed. Then the song again. It had been stuck in her head all morning. Some old pop song her mother used to sing. She didn't even like the song, but her brain kept playing it anyway. The younger Villani, Cassith, stood up suddenly. This is wonderful. So much life. So much happening. The older Villani looked disturbed. Their scales were shifting through colors rapidly, unable to settle on one emotion. Hana noticed their reaction and felt guilty. She was overwhelming them, but she couldn't stop thinking. That wasn't how human brains worked. She tried to think calmer thoughts. Immediately, her brain started listing things that made her calm. The ocean, rain on windows, her grandmother's garden. That time, Deho had made her laugh by doing a terrible impression of their commanding officer. She smiled at the memory. Wait, was she thinking about Deho too much? The aliens would notice. But then, trying not to think about something just made her think about it more. That was how human brains work too. Stupid brain. The Kresh chittered with amusement. One of them spoke through their translator. The human is thinking about not thinking. Fascinating recursive cognition. 30 minutes passed. Hannah's mind continued its chaotic journey. She thought about science and worry and hunger and attraction and curiosity and boredom and excitement, often several at the same time. She had memories triggered by random associations. Seeing a blue light made her think of the ocean, which made her think of a vacation, which made her think of her friend Minji, who had gone on that vacation, which made her wonder how Minji was doing, which made her think she should send a message later. Telepathic aliens were exhausted just from watching. This was normal for humans? This constant mental activity? Then Hannah looked directly at Sivrith and had a very clear thought. She wondered what it would be like to have all this taken away, to have her mind forced into order and silence. She felt a deep sadness. No wonder the Villani seemed so controlled. They had forgotten what it was like to be truly alive inside their own heads. Sivrith's scales went completely white. They stood up and walked out of the chamber. Several other Villani looked like they wanted to follow. Desik watched Sivrith leave but said nothing. 40-5 minutes in, something unexpected happened. Hannah started thinking about the ethics of what the Villani had done. Not to humans, but to themselves. She thought about children having implants forced on them, never getting to choose, never knowing what their natural mind felt like. She thought about freedom and choice, and what it meant to be truly yourself. She wasn't trying to make an argument. She was just thinking. But her thoughts were clear and passionate and completely honest. The whole chamber felt it. The crystalline lumata pulsed with light. The human female is not chaotic. She is thorough. She considers all angles. She feels deeply, Rock the Draken added. This is strength, not weakness. When the hour ended, Una deactivated the device. Hannah took a deep breath and rubbed her temples. That was exhausting. Is it always this tiring when people can hear you think? You were only thinking normally, Una said. We all think like that. You just had an audience. Desik stepped down from the podium. The High Counselor's scales were a confused mix of colors. I have never experienced anything like that. Such disorder. Such chaos. Such life, Kessa said from the back. The young Villani pushed forward through the crowd. High Counselor, I request permission to have my implant removed. The chamber went silent. Absolutely not, Desik said. You don't understand what you're asking. I understand perfectly, Kessa said. Their scales were bright with emotion. I want to think like that. Free. Chaotic. Real. I want to feel everything, not just what my implant allows. Other young Villani were nodding, murmuring among themselves. Sivrith returned to the chamber. They walked straight to the center floor and faced Desik. I am 312 years old, Sivrith said. I have served the council for 250 years. I have been a perfect example of Villani discipline and order. Desik looked concerned. Sivrith, what are you doing? I am making a choice, Sivrith said. For the first time in 300 years, I am making a real choice. They reached up to the side of their head. Their fingers found a small panel hidden among their scales. Every Vellani in the chamber recognized what they were doing. Don't, Desik said. Sivrith, please. You don't know what will happen. I know exactly what will happen, Sivrith said. I will think freely. I will feel chaos. I will be alive. They pressed the panel. There was a soft click. Sivrith's implant deactivated. For several seconds, nothing happened. Sivrith stood very still, their scales slowly shifting from gray to colors nobody had seen before. Bright pink, deep purple, orange like sunrise. Colors that young Vellani showed before their implants activated. Then Sivrith started laughing. It was a strange sound. Vellani didn't usually laugh, but Sivrith laughed like they were discovering it for the first time. They laughed and cried at the same time, scales flashing through the rainbow. I can feel everything, Sivrith gasped. I can think about anything. It's overwhelming. It's terrifying. It's wonderful. They turned to Hannah. You live like this? All the time. Hannah nodded. All the time. It's not always easy. But it's real. Real, Sivrith repeated. They looked at their hands like seeing them for the first time. I had forgotten what real felt like. Kesith ran forward and embraced Sivrith. Other young Vellani were talking excitedly. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some Vellani were horrified. Others looked curious. The non-Vellani species watched with fascination. Desik stood alone at the podium, looking lost. Their perfect ordered society was crumbling in front of them. Deho walked over to Ha. You did it, he said quietly. You showed them. Sivrith did it, Hannah said. I just thought at them for an hour. You showed them freedom, Deho said. That's not nothing. Hannah smiled at him. For the record, I think you have nice arms. I just didn't broadcast it to the entire station. Deho laughed. After everything that had happened, after all the chaos and confusion and diplomatic incidents, they could still laugh. Sivrith approached them, scales still flashing with colors. Humans, they said. I owe you an apology. I called you primitive, chaotic, barbaric, but you are free. And I had forgotten what freedom felt like. They looked around the chamber at the arguing aliens. The shocked Vellani, the excited young people demanding change. I think, Sivrith said slowly, that you have just started a revolution. 6 months had passed since what the galaxy now called the Honest Thought Incident. Station Terminus 9 looked the same on the outside, but everything inside had changed. Geho walked through the corridors carrying a box of equipment. The halls were busier now. More species mixing together. More conversation. More life. He passed a group of young Vellani whose scales flashed with colors their parents had never shown. They were laughing at something on a datapad. Things had moved fast after Sivrith deactivated their implant. Within a week, 50 young Vellani on the station had done the same. Within a month, the number was 300. The Vellani Council had tried to stop it at first, declaring it illegal, dangerous. A threat to their civilization. Then the other species had gotten involved. The Draken had offered military protection to any Vellani who wanted their implant removed. The Kresh had provided medical support. The Luma had offered counseling services for Vellani learning to handle their newly chaotic thoughts. Even species that humans had never heard of before started helping. The Council couldn't fight the entire galaxy. Eventually, Desik had been forced to make implant removal legal for adults. The debate was still raging about children, but at least adults could choose now. Daiho reached the engineering lab and palmed the door open. Hana was inside, working with a Vellani engineer named Keseth. The young Vellani's scales were bright blue today, matching their excited mood. "The coupling works," Keseth said when they saw Deho. "We adapted the Vellani reactor design for human power requirements. It will increase your ship efficiency by 40%. "That's amazing," Deho said. He set down his equipment box. "How long until we can start installing them?" 2 months for testing, Hana said. She was smiling, but she looked tired. She had been working non-stop on joint human-Vellani projects. "Then we can start production." Keseth's scales flickered to orange. "I still can't believe how much I missed. 3 years I had my implant. 3 years of perfect controlled thoughts. It felt like being asleep. Now I'm awake and everything is so much." "You're handling it well," Hana said kindly. "Because you taught me," Keseth said. "The cognitive freedom workshops helped so much. Learning that chaos is normal. That random thoughts don't define you. That you can feel overwhelmed and still be okay." The workshops had been Hana's idea. When Vellani started removing their implants, they needed help adjusting to unfiltered thoughts. Hana and a team of human psychologists had created training sessions, teaching techniques humans use naturally: meditation, mindfulness, understanding that not every thought required action. Though had helped teach some of the workshops too. It was strange at first, explaining to advanced aliens how human brains worked. But they listened. They learned. "Is Sivroth coming today?" Deho asked. "Should be here soon," Hana said. They're meeting with the Reform Committee first. Sivroth had become the face of the free thought movement. What had started as one Vellani removing their implant had grown into a galaxy-wide discussion about freedom, choice, and what it meant to be truly alive. Sivroth gave speeches, wrote articles, helped other Vellani adjust to their new reality. But more importantly, Sivroth had become a friend. The door opened and Sivroth entered. Their scales were a calm green today with streaks of gold. They had learned to control their colors a bit, not through an implant but through genuine emotion regulation. It was beautiful to watch. "Hello, humans and fellow freethinker," Sivroth said. Their voice was lighter now, more expressive than the controlled monotone from 6 months ago. "I have news. The council has voted. Children will no longer receive mandatory implants. Families can choose." Hana stood up quickly. "Really? They finally agreed?" "It was not easy," Sivroth said. "Many older Vellani are terrified. They think society will collapse into chaos. But enough voices spoke in favor of choice. The vote passed by a small margin." Keseth's scales turned bright pink with joy. "This changes everything. Future generations will grow up free. Some will still choose implants," Sivroth said. "And that is also their right. Freedom means choosing either path." They walked over to the window that looked out at the stars. "I have lived 300 years. I spent 290 of them thinking I was civilized, controlled, better than species who couldn't discipline their minds. Then 2 humans showed me what I had lost. We just thought out loud," Deho said. "Literally in my case." Sivroth laughed. They laughed often now. "You did more than that. You showed the galaxy that chaos is not the opposite of civilization. That order without choice is not really order at all." A chime sounded from Hana's datapad. "Oh, we have that presentation in 10 minutes. The cross-species cognitive study results." They walked together to the main conference room. It was packed with representatives from dozens of species. The Honest Thought incident had sparked interest across the galaxy in how different species thought and felt. Human researchers had partnered with alien scientists to study cognition in all its forms. They discovered that many species had some form of thought suppression, though usually not as extreme as the Vellani implants. The research was showing that cognitive diversity was just as important as biological diversity. Hana stood at the podium to present the findings. Daiho watched her with pride. She spoke clearly about neural patterns, thought processes, the benefits and challenges of different cognitive styles. Our conclusion, Hana said, is that there is no superior way to think. Vellani thought discipline has value. Human chaos has value. Kresh parallel processing has value. Lumine meditative focus has value. We are all different, and that makes us all valuable. The audience made sounds of approval in dozens of different ways. Clicks, hums, whistles, and applause. After the presentation, Daiho and Hana walked back to the engineering lab together. They had fallen into an easy routine over the past months. Working together, eating meals together, talking late into the night about science and philosophy and terrible jokes. Can I ask you something? Daiho said as they walked. Sure, that day in the tunnel, when I had that stupid thought about you. Were you really not mad? Hana considered the question. I was surprised. A little embarrassed, but mad? No, you thought I was attractive. That's not an insult. What mattered was that you didn't act inappropriately. You just had a random thought. A random thought that got broadcast to 300 aliens. Yeah, that part was unfortunate, Hana said with a smile. But look what it led to. An entire civilization questioning the way they had always done things. People choosing freedom. Understanding between species. All because you noticed my butt. Daiho laughed. I'm never living that down, am I? Nope. It's literally in the history books now. The honest thought incident started by engineer Daiho Kim's undisciplined observation. They reached the lab. Hana paused at the door. For the record, though, I'm glad you had that thought. Not just because of what it led to, but because it was honest. You didn't try to be someone you're not. You were just human. Chaotic and inappropriate? Real, Hana said. You were real. And that's what I liked about you then. It's what I like about you now. Daiho felt his heart beat faster. Liked? Or like? Hana smiled. Like present tense. Very present. So, if I asked you to dinner sometime, like not work dinner, actual date dinner, I'd say yes, Hana said. I'd say I've been thinking about it for months, but didn't want to complicate things. During the diplomatic crisis. Good thing that's mostly resolved. Then, very convenient timing. They stood there, smiling at each other like idiots. The door opened, and Keseth looked out at them. Are you two going to stand in the hallway thinking romantic thoughts, or are we going to finish this reactor design? Both, Hana said. Humans can multitask. Later that evening, Daiho stood on the observation deck watching the stars. Earth was out there somewhere, so far away it was just another point of light. But humanity had made its mark on the galaxy. Not through weapons or technology or conquest, through honesty. Through showing other species that being imperfect was okay. That chaos and order could coexist. That freedom mattered more than control. Sirith joined him at the window. Their scales were a peaceful blue. I have been thinking, Sirith said, about what defines a civilization. I used to believe it was order, control, discipline. Now I think it is choice. The ability to decide who you want to be. Sounds about right, Daiho said. I also think humans are strange, chaotic, loud, and often inappropriate. Sirith continued. And I am grateful you are exactly that way, because you reminded us what we had forgotten. How to be truly alive. We're good at being alive, Daiho agreed. Not always smart or controlled or civilized, but definitely alive. They stood together in comfortable silence, Human and Vellani, watching the stars. Somewhere on the station, young Vellani were learning to handle their first chaotic thoughts. Researchers were discovering new things about how minds worked. Species were sharing knowledge and building friendships. And it had all started because one human engineer had an inappropriate thought and accidentally broadcast it to everyone. Hannah joined them at the window. She stood close to Deho, close enough that their hands almost touched. "Captain Tajan is recommending us both for commendations," she said, "for our contributions to interspecies relations. They're giving us medals for causing a diplomatic incident?" Deho asked.